Below the video, there is a list of supplies, materials, and cutting sizes. So look for that little triangle below the video. I am showing pictures of the particular materials that I used. By no means are these the only materials that you can use. I did purchase my zippers from an Etsy shop. There are several zippers that can be purchased from Etsy at a very reasonable price, so I would suggest that as a resource. I strongly recommend using the Microtex needles for your sewing machine. I use the size 14. If you are sewing with thicker fabrics than a quilting cotton, you may want to consider using the 16. These needles, along with the size, help to get you through the thickness of layers when we have multiple layers with fusible fleece and your fabrics and interfacing involved. Some machines will not make it through all of those layers, so you may want to test in advance before you start the bag how much your machine can handle in the way of layers. I'm also showing some tools that might be helpful to you in sewing your bag. They are not necessary. You can use something else. And the particular fabric that I used, I'm showing you a label here. This is not a fabric that I think is being produced right now. It was a fabric that I had in my stash, but if that was what you were interested in, I am showing you the name of it. And now let's prepare our fabric. I will be showing you both a cutting layout and the cut pieces. With the cutting layout, there are pattern pieces. I do not use pattern pieces. It's unnecessary, and because they're all rectangles and you can use your cutting mat and a cutting ruler and rotary cutter, but I am showing the pieces so that you can see how I laid them out. The very first piece will be our main color. You'll be cutting 4 pieces from this. There is also interfacing to be cut exactly in the same sizes. You will note in the cutting layout that I have in the bottom right hand corner a piece that is listed as 2 by 5 and then 2 by 5. So you're going to cut it out and then cut it in half. However, on the actual cut fabric pieces, you'll see that it was a long strip that was 2 by 10, which will also be cut in half to make 2 by 5 pieces. You can cut it out either way. I'm showing it the way on the cutting layout because you have a larger piece of fabric at the top that you could use for an internal pocket or just to have a larger scrap. So it can be cut either way as long as you end up with 2 by 5 pieces for the right and left ends of the front zipper. Next we'll go to our lining. The lining is listed as being 1/2 yard. So this is a doubled over piece. I'll be cutting through 2 layers. You'll be cutting 2 lining pieces as well as 2 fiber fill pieces from the larger part, and then the inside pocket. You need 2 pieces. It's an inside zipper pocket. You need 2 pieces. These can be cut from any of the fabrics, and I just chose the lining as the 1/2 yard piece to have. There's going to be excess that can be used for, again, an internal optional pocket. Now let's cut out our contrast pieces. I am showing a piece at the top that is 12 by 9. After cutting out the 12 by 9, you will be cutting it again in half lengthwise to get 2 12 by 4.5 inch pieces. There's also the outside front pocket lining. This piece could be cut from any of the fabrics, wherever you have extra, but as you can see, there's plenty here on this back quarter to cut this piece along with the bag handle and the zipper tab. I moved the zipper tab over to the right so that there'd be a larger scrap again, and there is an additional cut on this piece that you will wait until later to cut. That's from the piece that is going to be the bag handle. I'm showing here the interfacing pieces as well as the fiber fill pieces. These are all fusible items. You will fuse them to the piece that they match. There is a little scrap about 2 by 2 of fiber fill that's going to be used later for the zipper tab. You can wait to cut it at that time. From the 2 fiber fill pieces that you will have cut out to be the same size as your bag lining pieces, We will be cutting off the top edges. You'll see in the picture that I have shown it cut off. We will be attaching one to the inside of the lining, and we will leave the other unfused at this time. Fuse your interfacing to the contrast pieces, which are the bottom of your bag. There should be 2 pieces. You will not be putting interfacing on the zipper tab, and I'm just showing the little piece that's going to be inside the zipper tab, which can be cut later. Further fabric prep will involve cutting that either 4 by 5 inch piece or your 10 by 2 inch piece into the 2 pieces you see at the top. We're also going to take the top front from the main fabric and we're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, and iron it. We're going to do the same thing with the front center, fold in half, right sides together lengthwise, and iron that. I'm showing them opened up after pressing. Then for the bag handle, you're going to take that long piece, fold it in half, wrong sides together, open it up, and then fold in each outer edge towards the center and press it so that you can see these 4 long sections. We're going to be folding those back on each other after we press. Now we're going to apply those interfacings. To the front center part, you'll see that there's interfacing only on one of the 2 parts, and also on that top front piece, it's only on half of it. On the 2 by 5 pieces, I think I might have said it's not going to be interfaced. If I did say that before, it is going to be interfaced. We also need interfacing on the back main part of the bag, so apply that to the entire piece. And for the bag handle, we only have 1 strip going down, so that's about 3/4 of an inch wide by 18 inches long, and you can apply that to one of the 2 center portions. I'm showing you here all of those pieces flipped to their right sides and flipped over that have just been interfaced, and you should now be ready for us to make the bag handle. With our bag handle piece, we are going to be cutting off 3 inches from one end of the handle. So I'm showing it here cut apart. If you want a label on your bag handle, now would be the time to get that out. But whether or not you're doing that, you do need your D-ring and also your lobster clasp piece. We're going to start with the lobster clasp piece, and we're going to slide the D-ring end of that lobster clasp onto our long strip that should be about 15 inches by about an inch right now. With the D-ring lobster clasp piece on the bag handle, open both ends and pin or clip it together so that your folded and ironed in creases match up with one another. We are then going to sew a 3/8 inch seam allowance through both layers of this. After sewing that seam allowance, go back to your ironing board and open it up and press the seam open. You'll then want to refold the piece and press it back down again in that area, and you should have a piece that looks like this. The next step is to apply some top stitching to both edges of your bag handle. Slide the D-ring lobster clasp around to the bottom and just move it around as you sew both sides. You'll now have a completed bag handle that should look about like that, but we are going to do some additional stitching. Notice that I have pulled the seam up to where the lobster clasp D-ring part is. I'm then going to stitch this in place so that it doesn't move around. If you're going to put on a handle, a label, this would be the time to do it. With the bag handle complete, take that 3-inch piece that you cut off from the bag handle and apply top stitching to both sides of this. You'll need to get your D-ring and put it in the middle, fold it in half, and just do stitching at the very edge. This is going to be set aside as well to be put onto the bag at a later stage. To get ready to put our top zipper onto the bag, we're going to prepare the zipper tab. So you will need your 3x6 piece that was cut from the contrast. You're going to fold it in half and give a good press to the folded edge. Then reopen that piece and fold the outer edges towards the center and give that a good press. We need to get our zipper, and you might have a more narrow zipper than mine. If you do, you may have to trim some off the long edges of this. That is why the piece is cut the size that it is, so that it will fit up to the largest zipper that I'm aware of. We're going to open one end of this piece and lay our zipper down to use as a guide to know how wide to make our zipper tab. So I'm folding in the side edges towards the center, and that will tell me how wide my piece is. If you have overlap here, you'd want to trim off some on the sides. So after determining that that is where you need your width to be, then you can remove the zipper from here and go and press down both edges so that you now have the size needed. We will open that piece back up after pressing. We're going to be doing a lot of opening and repressing to get this to come out. We're going to open it up and we're going to fold the short ends towards the center again, but I don't come quite to the center. That will depend again on how big you might want your zipper tab to be. I fold it in, leaving a little gap there, and then I refold the outside edges and press again, because now we have different lines that have been pressed in a different direction. Reopen one end, and we will now decide what size that little piece of spare fiber fill will be. Just put it big enough that it can go in that one square, fold it all back up, and it will be in this long shape, and then fold it again in half. So you have a little box that's going to be put at the end of your zipper. We're going to open that back up because you'll notice some little pieces poke out. If you will fold down those pieces and give it a good press, that will give you a nicer finished appearance. Grab your zipper and cut off that tab. We don't want to be sewing through that piece of metal. Surely break some needles there, and we won't want to do that. Now let's slide that zipper in, and you can slide it a little bit farther than I'm showing in the picture so that more of the threads will catch it. Fold it back again and pin or clip it into place, and let's go over to the sewing machine. We're going to attach this. So your needle needs to get through that nylon part of the zipper. I'm using an awl, which helps me keep that fabric end together as I'm sewing, but that is purely optional. You're going to sew a square around this zipper tab, and then you can X through the center, and that should hold it firmly in place, and we can set this aside for now. We're going to do a little bit of preparation for our center zipper, and that is getting those two small main color pieces that are 2x5, and they've been interfaced. We're going to fold them in half and give them a good press, and so you will have these pieces set aside for later use. It's nice to have them prepared ahead of time though. This next part is optional. If you've used a canvas fabric for the bottom of your bag, you will definitely not need to do this, but I have a lightweight quilting cotton, so I'm going to attach a piece of fabric that has been cut a scant bit smaller than the bag bottom pieces, and I'm just going to stitch around. Now this piece has had interfacing put to the back of it, but I'm adding an additional, I'm using a curtain lining fabric just to give a little bit more body to the bottom of the bag, entirely optional. Now let's assemble the back of the bag. You will need your main fabric that is the back of the bag piece that has interfacing on it, and you will need one of your bag bottom pieces out of the contrast fabric. Mine has been additionally stabilized. You're going to put these right sides together, and you can pin it or clip it. We're going to sew a 3/8 inch seam allowance of the 12-inch part along the 12-inch part of the bag. Then you will open the bag up, and I press this seam towards the top. You can open the seam up if you want, but always press your seams after sewing. Now we're going to complete the lower part of the front of the bag. You need that folded piece of fabric that is the center bag front. The fold is at the top. The sewn edge is going to be at the bottom. So we are going to put these right sides together and sew a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Afterwards, open the piece up, and again, you can press your seam as you did before. Either open it and press it or press towards the top. So now we have completed the back. So I'm showing you the inside of the back and the inside of the front of the bag pieces we've completed to this point. You may wish to put an embellishment on the front of your bag, and if you do, now is the time to do it. I have a little tag here. It's a Tim Holtz scrapbooking supply, I believe. Make sure that you are in at least 2 inches from the seam that's going to be on the right side of your bag, or wherever you're going to put it. Make sure you're leaving that 2 inches there, because that's actually going to be the side of the bag, and you wouldn't want this on the side. I use some of my Fusible tape, the 2-sided sewing tape, just to keep it in place as I stitch. So after peeling off the backing of that, I press it into place. I can get it nice and straight, and I used a zigzag stitch to put this onto my bag. I have a note here to be sure that you're stitching only through the top portion of the bag, not the lining or the pocket. And I say that because when I did it at a different stage of the bag, and I shouldn't have, because I stitched through my pocket. So I'm just putting that note there. You won't be doing that if you are doing it right now, as I'm suggesting you do. We're going to put the inside zipper pocket together now. So you're going to need the lining piece that you did not fuse your batting to, and one of your inside pocket pieces that's 10 by 6.5. We're going to have it going widthwise, the 10 inch to the 12 inch side. We center that piece 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from both sides and pin it in place. I have put a pin right in the middle of it to keep it straight, as well as on the sides. After doing this, you're going to come up towards the top and do some more pinning and center a piece of your washi tape where you want the zipper to be. I have the top of my tape about 1 inch down and 1 inch in from both sides of this fabric, because we're going to be sewing around it later, and we need some space there. You do not need to use washi tape. This is the 3/8 inch wide piece. You can instead draw with your fabric marker a rectangle in this space, and that works equally well. I just find the washi tape easier for me. Then you're going to go to your sewing machine and stitch with a short stitch length around all 4 sides of the tape. So you're going to make a rectangle around this piece of tape with your stitching line. So I've stitched all the way around all 4 sides of this rectangle, and I'm going to remove the washi tape. I'll show you here what it looks like without the tape on it. We have a rectangle around here, and we're going to cut that open. I use scissors. You can use a rotary cutter. You can use a seam ripper. Just open the seam up to about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So you can see here at the ends. You can see here that I have cut this open. But now I need to go to the corners, and being very careful not to go past my stitching lines. I'm going to make a V at the end so that it will turn more easily. And now we're going to flip this through. So you'll take the top short piece and push through the back, and the bottom piece, you'll see here it's been all the way pushed through, and you're going to work these seams a little bit and press them down so that you get as good a corners as you can get with this. This is the front part of the lining, and you can see it's been pressed open. We are going to flip this to the other side. We're going to use some of that washable fusible tape. We're going to put a strip at the top and at the bottom on the back side. You will then want to remove the outer paper, and we're going to get the zipper that goes for the inside of the bag. This is a regular sewing zipper, regular one that you can get from fabric stores. Going to lay that down onto the tape so the tape will hold it in place. So be careful to get it centered. Flip it to the front side, and again, you can make sure now that you have it centered in this spot. We're going to be sewing it in place, and that tape's going to keep it so that it doesn't shift around as we're sewing. Be sure that you slide your zipper head to the center before we start sewing to keep it out of our way. We're going to move it later as we get to that spot in our sewing. Get your zipper foot on your machine, and from the top we're going to stitch along the very edge of the zipper, and this will hold it in place. We now have our zipper installed for our inside zipper pocket, and we're going to flip this piece to the back side and trim off both ends of the zipper. This is why we wanted a longer zipper than our opening. We want to get rid of those metal tabs inside, so we'll get rid of the two that are on the beginning part of the zipper and that one piece that's at the end of the zipper. You now want to slide the zipper tab to the center and make sure that that stays open until the bag is finished. We're going to need that to be open later. Let's finish up this pocket now. You'll need your second piece for the pocket, and we're going to have it faced up. We're going to put right sides together and pick up this piece that you've already assembled. And when I say right sides together, I mean the right side of the pocket pieces. So you can see the right side facing up of our piece that we've just applied the zipper to. We're going to line up the top pocket pieces together. We're going to pin the pocket pieces right sides together and pin that lining piece out of the way. We're going to be sewing across the top edge of these two pieces to attach them at the top so our pocket's closed. So you see here that I'm stitching across that spot in the pocket just at the top for now. I'm showing it to you pressed down, and we're ready to do the next part of this pocket. We need to sew the side seams. So we're going to pin the lining pieces out of the way again. Notice where the zipper is. We're going to be sewing along both sides to create side seams. Do not sew the bottom at all. You might think that's an error here, but we do not want that bottom seam sewn. While our pocket is finished, we have left the batting off of the lining piece to make sewing easier here and turning of that zipper space easier. We are going to apply some batting now. So you need to lay your piece of batting down on top of the zipper and mark around where the zipper is. We need to cut that area out, and we are going to be going to the back side of the lining, the wrong side, and pulling the pocket through that batting. So the batting is just going to be attached to the lining. You'll want to fuse that down as you've done according to your manufacturer's directions for that fusible fleece. So the fusible side should be to the wrong side of the lining, and the pocket has been pulled through with the bottom still open. Adding a patch pocket inside the bag is entirely optional. You can use any of your fabrics, whatever you have extra and whatever size. This pocket is going to go from seam to seam because I have enough fabric to do that. I have added some interfacing. That again would be optional. You do have 2 layers of fabric, and we're going to create a long tube. This is provided that you can go from seam to seam. By putting it right sides together and sewing along the long edge, you can create a tube, and I'm showing you here how it has been seamed. Getting the other side of the lining piece, the side that does not have your internal zipper, I am placing this pocket that is a long tube with the seam at the bottom alongside of the bag. Be sure to note that part of this lining piece is the bottom of the bag, so you don't want your pocket in the bottom, so I have it up a ways. I'm going to sew across the bottom, which attaches it to the lining piece. I'm also going to sew up both sides, just leaving the top part open as a pocket. But I am going to divide my pocket, so I've drawn some lines to show where my pocket will be divided. That leaves me a spot for a crochet hook or a pencil or pen, and space on either side to hold whatever you might want in your bag. Now let's put in that front center zipper. You will need to gather these materials. Our front piece that has been attached to the contrast fabric. Our second zipper, this one does not have the zipper tab attached to it. Our front piece that has been folded in half, that's the top part, and these are the pieces that we're going to need. So we'll start with the zipper. Let's cut off the tab end of that zipper so that it doesn't get in our way. Discard that end piece, and we're going to be replacing it, a zipper stop, with this piece of fabric. We have two of these pieces that are folded in half and interfaced. If you will open up one of them, and we're going to be placing it on the zipper to make a new stop for that zipper. Noting where the fold is and that you have enough zipper on the other side of that fold, pin this in place, and we're going to stitch right across the fold line with the sewing machine. You can go back and forth over that center part, and be sure and go very slowly, even though the machine usually will go through these nylon zippers. You might want to go back and forth a few times. So now you can see that it has been stitched. We're going to fold the piece back over, and you've made your first zipper stop. We're going to do the other end of the zipper stop, and we have to be careful in a couple of places here. We need to center it first. So you're going to lay your zipper down to where you want, how much fabric you want at either end of these zipper stops. So I have mine about 1.5 inches of this fabric is going to show, and I'm lining it up there. I'm going to mark where the left zipper, the new zipper tab I'm going to be putting on, is going to be. So I'm marking it on my zipper. I'm going to do it on both sides of the zipper, and I am using a pen by Pilot. It's called Friction, and it is heat sensitive. It's also erasable, but it's heat sensitive, so when I press it, it'll get rid of that mark for me, which won't show anyway. We're going to be sewing over it. So I have it on the top and the underside so that when I'm sewing, I can always find that spot. With the zipper still closed and having the zipper upside down, line up your mark with the fold in your zipper stop piece. We're going to be sewing right along here, but not yet. Just be sure that you know this is where you're going to be lining it up, because now we need to open that zipper, or we're going to be in big trouble and not be able to open it later. So you still have those markings there. You've got your zipper open so that you know the tab is between the two zipper stops before you sew. Now we want to pin that in place. So as if it was closed, we're going the way we want it to be able to close. We're going to pin it. Again, our marking line is lined up with the fold in that zipper stop piece, and we have right sides together. Let's put the front piece all together now. So we'll need our bottom piece that's contrast that's been attached to the center part. We need the top part, the fold is going down, and we need our zipper that we've just put the stops on. To make it the same size as the back of the bag, we need to get that piece out, and we're going to line up the contrast seams and the bottom to make sure that everything's together. And this is where we're going to have a little bit of room to make it fit depending on what size zipper that we have. We can space it out by placing it right next to the back piece. We can adjust the tops to match and get the right amount of space for our zipper. So you see I have it all lined up there. I'm going to be flipping it over and putting tape at the bottom of the top piece and at the top of the bottom piece. That's where we're going to be attaching our zipper. So remove the tape from that top piece, and you're going to want to still have your back piece right next to it so that you can line pieces up and keep everything straight. And then you'll do the same thing with the bottom piece. Remove your tape and be sure everything is lined up just right before we're going to sew. And you'll see that my bottom seams are lined up. The top is lined up as well. We're going to trim off now the ends of those zipper stops that we had extra fabric just so that you could adjust the size as you want. And we're going to stitch from one side of the zipper to the other. I use my zipper foot, and you can just move the zipper tab out of your way as you sew. Lift your presser foot and just move it back up whenever necessary. So you're doing from side to side on the top and the bottom. With our front side complete, we have a zipper, but we don't have a pocket, so we need to make that pocket. You're going to get your front zipper pocket piece, and it needs to be right side up, whereas it's going to be attached right to wrong side. So when we open our pocket, we want to see the inside of this pocket, of this fabric. We want to see the good side of the fabric. So you're going to flip everything over. So now we have that front piece upside down. We're looking at the wrong side of that zipper pocket, and we're going to match up the top edges and the side edges. We're going to sew a seam across the top to close the pocket and straight down both sides of the pocket. You don't need to close the bottom yet. We'll do that next with our top stitching. For top stitching, I usually select a longer stitch length. We're going to line up our front piece and our back piece. Decide where you want that top stitching to be. I like it to catch the seam that we press towards the top. This will also be closing the bottom of our front zipper pocket. So you have to do this top stitching. If you don't want to top stitch, your objects are going to go all the way through to the bottom of the bag, and you probably don't want that. So decide where you'd like your top stitching and top stitch both the front and the back piece. We're now going to cut out our corners for boxing the corners of the bag. There are other methods for boxing the corners. If you have a preferred method that does not require cutting out the corners, you can omit this step. But I'm going to show you how to do it with cutting out the corners. I mark a 1.5 by 1.5 inch square at on both sides of the front pieces, the back pieces, and both of the lining pieces. So I'm going to, after marking the corners, I'm going to cut them out, and then we'll be ready to make sure that we've have an open zipper on that inside lining piece before we move further. We're going to put the top zipper into our bag next. Now we're going to insert the top zipper. You're going to need your front and back main bag pieces, your 2 lining pieces, and the zipper that we prepared way back at the beginning, the one with the zipper tab. We're going to need those things, as well as the fabric tape. I'm going to right now make sure that I have this zipper to the center. It gets the metal out of the way. Go up to the top of the bag front and mark 1.25 inches in from both the right and the left side of the bag, and using your fabric marker, make a mark. This will help us place our zipper in the correct spot. To install the zipper, make sure that it is upside down, open, and the zipper tab to the right as you look down on it. You'll want your front piece that has the front zipper face up. So we're going to be putting the right side of the zipper to the right side of the bag. We need to have the top part of the tape as you're looking down at it. So we're going to install that tape. We're going to put a piece between the 2 marks that we made before. We're going to line up the edge of the zipper tab with the left side, and on the right side we're going to transfer that mark that you'll see on your bag that's 1.5 inches in to the zipper tape, so you'll know where to stop stitching. So you'll see how it's set up here. We want it like this in order to sew. And I go ahead and put either pins or clips at either end because that part is not taped and it helps stabilize it and keep it straight as we are about to sew. Using your zipper foot attachment, attach the zipper to the front piece between the two markings. So 1¼ inches in from the left edge, sew till you're 1¼ inches from the right edge. And these are the markings you've already placed. You will now need the lining piece that does not have the zipper pocket on it. I'm using my piece which has the patch pocket. You might not have the patch pocket. Now that the zipper is attached to the front piece, we're going to attach it to the lining. The zipper tape becomes the center of a sandwich between the front and the lining pieces, which are right sides together. Transfer your markings that 1¼ inch in from both the right and the left side, or you can tape your zipper down and just stitch from the other side directly over your previous stitching lines. After sewing, flip the front and the lining pieces wrong sides together and press. Now we'll need to attach the zipper to the other side of the bag, the back side. To attach the zipper to the back side of the bag, start by closing the zipper, which is attached to the front of the bag, and place your markings 1¼ inches in from both the right and the left side. You're going to be marking on the zipper. We're then going to take our fabric that is our back piece at the top and put the same markings 1¼ inches in from the right and the left of the back bag piece. You're going to be taking your sandwich pieces, which includes the front of the bag that has the attached zipper and the back of the bag, and place these right sides together. I'm showing the picture with the zipper closed. The zipper could be closed or open here. We are going to open it to actually sew. Once you have it in this position, you'll know that you're going to be sewing your zipper on correctly. Flip the entire packet over and place your tape on the right side of the back bag between the two markings that you have there. You need to apply your tape, that two-sided fusing tape, either to the back piece or the zipper. I have put it on the zipper here, but it's going to be within those 1½ inch marks. You could have put that on the bag, and then remove the other side of the tape so that we can attach the zipper to the bag. Attach that zipper right sides together, taking a careful look at the picture there. You've got your tape between the markings, and you are stabilizing the right and left end with a clip or a pen. You then want to set it up on your machine, and again, take a look at how it's set up here. I've shown this so that you can see the zipper is not twisted. It's attached to the piece in the back, and we're going to be sewing to the piece in the front. Again, just in between the markings that you've marked on the zipper. So you want to make sure that your zipper, you're lining yourself up to sew just the same as you did for the other piece. We're now ready to attach the lining to this piece. So add some more of your tape between the two markings, and then we will be removing the white tape so that we can attach the lining piece here, as we did on the front piece. Now we need to get the lining piece that has the zipper on it and make sure again that that zipper is open at least halfway. I wouldn't put the end too close to the side seams. Now flip it over, and we're going to match the top edges. Press down so that it's adhered to the glue, and again put clips or pins at the end. We're now going to stitch. Again, I flip mine over and stitch directly on this seam line, or the line that I stitched the zipper to on the other side. You can do it on either side. You're going to fold the lining back to the other side and press, and take the opportunity now to make sure that your zipper will close and that it is keeping the outsides to the outside and insides to the inside. And then we'll move on to the next step. We're going to add the handle attachment piece, and we sewed this earlier at the beginning. I line it up on the left side of the bag, even with where my zipper's coming across. After you have pinned it in place or clipped it in place, sew just in the seam line, in between the 3/8 inch, in between that and the edge of the bag. And I go back and forth several times here so that we can attach our handle later after the bag's done. Finally, time to put this bag together. You're going to want to fold it so that the two front pieces are, the front and back pieces are right sides together, and the two lining pieces are right sides together on the other side. We're going to make sure that we have gotten the side seams on both sides, front to back, exactly together. We are going to pin the bag together, lining piece to lining piece, front to back, right sides together. You'll see I've pinned all the way around the back. Make sure right now that you have not sewn the bottom of that inside pocket together. We're going to start by doing the side seams. You will attach on the side seams, right and left sides of the main pieces and right and left sides of the lining pieces. So from that corner that we cut out all the way up to the top, and please make sure that your zipper tab is stuck inside the bag, sandwiched inside there. We did not sew the bottoms of these pieces together so that we could press the side seams open. If you will put something in between, I used a tailor ham or a sleeve ham in here to open the seam up and press them open. That helps us do the boxed corners later and makes a nicer appearance to the finished bag. Now that those side seams were pressed open, we can sew both the lining bottom pieces together and the bag bottom pieces together, again using your same seam allowance. And then try to press both of those open. You can't do it the same way, but you can manage to get them pressed somewhat open so that we can box the corners. To box the corners, you're going to line up the bottom seam with the side seam along in 4 places and pin them so that these seams match one another, and use your 3/8 inch seam allowance to sew across the bottom of all 4. Once you have done that, you will have boxed the corners of your bag. It's now time to turn the bag. Your zipper should have been tucked inside. You'll notice mine wasn't. Makes it a little bit harder, but you can get it still pulled through. And you're going to open up that pocket that we did not close the bottom of, and we're going to flip the bag inside out through that pocket. We're nearly done now. What you need to do is take the pocket, make it on right sides outside, so wrong sides together, press under your seam allowance and sew across the bottom of that. So you will have an exposed seam, but that seam is in the bottom of your inside pocket, so it's a little more attractive than having it at the bottom of your lining, which is where it normally would be. Tuck the pocket back inside, and you can close that zipper now and push the lining all the way into the corners of the inside of the bag. You might want to give it a little light press before you do that to make the lining lay a little smoother. To finish off the bag, we're going to do some top stitching around the zipper. You will want to find the end of the zipper that has the tab and pull it back away out of the seam as shown in the picture, and be sure and match up the side seams and pin it or clip it in that spot. On the other side of the bag where you have the ends of the zipper and those little zipper stops, you're going to angle those pieces down into your seam allowance that's between the front and the inside of the bag and clip it there as well. Then you'll go to your machine and you're going to top stitch all the way around the bag, and that will close up those 2 little end pieces and finish off the bag nicely. We're all done except for attaching that handle. You have your finished bag. I'm going to show the inside of the bag with the inside zipper pocket showing, and then the optional patch pocket that I put on the other side. So I hope you enjoyed making your 3 zipper bag.